Newcastle Museum is a place of significance in the city, a place where the many stories that make up a city's past are retold and renewed through its objects, and a place where new individual, family and community stories are generated through interactions. Newcastle is gateway to the resource-rich Hunter Valley in Australia and one of the world's largest coal exporting ports. Historically, major bulk cargoes used to be delivered by rail to downtown dockside areas for export, and the city's immediate foreshores were characterised by industry, noise and grit. During the latter part of the 20th century, new port facilities shifted the focus of the working harbour away from the city precinct and released old spaces for new purposes. This is mirrored in the museum's own story. It began life in a building that dated from 1876, the Castlemaine Brewery, and was reborn in a post-industrial foreshore location in 2011 at the former Honeysuckle Railway Workshop complex. Now regenerated as a museum, the three linked buildings date largely from the 1880s and are heritage listed. The 1870 J.A. and Brown Locomotive No. 4 celebrates the building's origins as the most important artefact dating from the original Great Northern Railway occupation of the site and the early industrial development characterising its immediate vicinity. The 1880 local brick-built blacksmith and wheel shop is a focal point for the many stories of Newcastle. Displayed objects offer visitors a localised pathway through time, from fossils to the 21st century. Each exhibit has its own special story for those who choose to make a connection. The more recent 1920s new erecting shop focuses on two key Newcastle industries, coal and steel, with the heat and noise of the former encapsulated in a fire and earth sight and sound simulation. The former locomotive boiler shop, dating from 1882 to 1885, is a place where personal stories are made, as families connect via interactive science exhibits and special exhibitions. This tree trunk may be an atypical museum object, but it offers a visible pathway to Newcastle's indigenous history. It predates European settlement in Australia, living for about 300 to 400 years until 2001, when its burnt trunk was removed for conservation. This tree was used by generations of the Worimi people to find schools of fish at Bagnall's Beach. It stretched over the water and provided an ideal location for spotting the fish. A climber would look down for the fish and direct people in canoes to the best catching spots. Footholds can still be seen along the trunk. The Worimi have a strong and ongoing culture. A coastal people, they traditionally made canoes from local stringy bark trees and fished with lines made from waterproof bark or spears. The remnants of a statue which once stood on prominent display in a Newcastle suburb are a museum exhibit with a dual significance. The Carrara marble statue was sculpted by Alessandro Casagrande in 1919 following World War I. This war had touched almost all families of our fledgling nation, with Australian battle casualties, killed and wounded, numbering about 215,000 of the 332,000 who served. People of the Hunter and Newcastle were heavily represented in these statistics, so it's not surprising that this particular marble soldier was a homage point for annual World War I commemorative ceremonies, until one of Australia's most serious natural disasters occurred on 28 December 1989. On that day, the soldier was transformed into a different sort of memorial by an earthquake which killed 13 people, injured another 160 others, and damaged buildings and facilities over an area of about 9,000 square kilometres, or 3,475 square miles. The devastation cost about 4 billion Australian dollars, affecting 35,000 homes, 147 schools, and about 3,000 other structures within the immediate Newcastle area. The quake caused the statue to fracture at its two most vulnerable structural points, the soldier's neck and ankles, which we now reflect upon in the museum. Well might our soldier wear a somewhat timelessly enduring expression. He symbolises two traumatic periods felt by this city's people. I have been associated with Newcastle Museum as a regular volunteer helper for over 2 years since my retirement, and can confidently assert that the museum is very much about people, places and things. It houses and evokes many stories of our region and nation, and, encapsulated within the life of its city, continues to generate new phases, both in its own story and in our local people's.